In Ottawa, a judge has acquitted former Afghanistan hostage Joshua Boyle on all charges. Here he is leaving court earlier this afternoon. Boyle was accused of assault, sexual assault, and unlawful confinement of his estranged wife, Caitlan Coleman. Boyle and Coleman were kidnapped by a Taliban-linked network in Afghanistan in 2012 and spent 5 years in captivity before they returned to Canada with their children. Here's what Boyle's lawyer had to say after the judge's ruling.
Obviously, Josh and his family are very pleased with the result that was achieved today with the decision of His Honor Judge Judy. It was an extremely thorough review of all of the evidence, and we're very, very pleased with the result. Josh, as I've indicated, will not be making any comments. Not today and not tomorrow, not for some time. Today is really for him and the family the first step towards getting access and hopefully someday custody of his children.
The CBC's Evan Dyer has been at the courthouse all day. He has more details, including what the judge weighed in making his ruling.
Well, this was a case where there were 19 accusations, 19 charges, 18 of which related to various acts against Joshua Boyle's wife, Caitlan Coleman, who we can identify because she chose to come forward and speak about this case. The charges included things like forcible confinement, several counts of common assaults and counts of sexual assault, including with a weapon, ropes in this case. But what we saw was that the judge cited time after time dealing with these counts and dismissing them, cited memory lapses or problems with the reliability of Caitlan Coleman's memory. And she herself in her testimony in this trial talked about her memory being a bit fuzzy, talked about having a bit of a blank, or things being a blur. And perhaps in one of the most damning or harmful statements in terms of the reliability of her testimony, she told police in her original police statement that some memories could be inserted, some memories could be invented, and she talked about things that appeared in the charge sheet having probably happened, but perhaps not, or perhaps having confused them with another time. And so all of those issues taken together led the judge to dismiss these charges one by one, saying, I don't believe Joshua Boyle because of his credibility issues. He doesn't strike me as a truthful witness in many cases, but I also don't believe or can't believe Caitlan Coleman. And we saw him run through the entire list of charges, dismissing them on that basis. And it must be said that in most cases, his issues with Joshua Boyle were about credibility, in other words, truthfulness. With Caitlan Coleman, they were mostly about reliability, in other words, memory. But he did also impugn her truthfulness on at least one occasion, saying there was at least one occasion where he believed that her evidence to the court had not been truthful.
And what did the judge have to say about Boyle's behavior?
Well, he was very harshly critical of Boyle's behavior, the way he conducted himself as a husband, and he certainly condemned the way that he behaved towards Caitlan Coleman, calling it cruel, controlling, degrading. And really, the evidence left very little doubt about that. What happened, though, was that on the specific charges that were alleged with specific times and places, he didn't feel that the evidence rose to the level of beyond a reasonable doubt. And in fact, on some occasions, he said he didn't even have to apply the reasonable doubt standard because the evidence didn't go that far. So what we saw here was a trial that really became a high-profile trial because of who was involved, the two people who had just been released from Afghanistan. But it also set a precedent in terms of a sexual assault case because in this case, Caitlan Coleman, the alleged victim, had her own standing in the trial, was able to have her own lawyer present, which is something of a new departure in Canadian sexual assault cases, and yet we saw that that did not really help her to make her case and convince this judge that the events she alleged actually happened.
The CBC's Evan Dyer at the courthouse in Ottawa. Caitlan Coleman wasn't in court today, but her lawyer spoke to reporters outside shortly after the proceedings.
I've had a chance to speak with Ms. Coleman. She's devastated by the verdict. I think the case is an example of the challenges that a complainant faces coming forward with allegations of sexual assault or domestic violence in terms of how things operate in our criminal justice system. And she's needs some time to process what was said today and try and move on with her life.
Coleman now lives in the U.S. with the couple's 4 children.